it is that time once again to be taking a look at yet another Doctor Who record as a part of the Vinyl Who series from the Demon Music Group. In today's review, the latest release from the series, the double LP of the 4th Doctor classic serial, The Horror of Fang Rock, as written by Terrance Dicks, featuring the debut of the Rootons, of course the arch-enemy of the Sontarans, featuring Tom Baker as the 4th Doctor, alongside Louise Jameson as Leela. The 4th Doctor 1977 story, The Horror of Fang Rock, written by the late and legendary Terrance Dicks, is the latest classic serial to get record treatment as a part of the Demon Music Group Vinyl Who series. Pressed onto two 140-gram records, this release features the original full-cast TV soundtrack with linking narration and visual description from Leela herself, Louise Jameson. This release is available to purchase now from online stores the likes of Amazon and HMV, at the price of around £30, although this does fluctuate. Hopefully once shops are allowed to open once more after the current COVID lockdown, some stock may also find their way in store. To be honest, I imagine if you have a local record shop, if you ask them to get some stock in, I imagine they will try to fulfill that request as best they can. And it's also very good to support your local smaller record shop retailers. When researching for this review, I noted that Fang Rock was a #1 bestseller on Amazon. A lot of previous releases a part of this series are also now out of print, so it seems that the longer that this series continues, the more collectible it is becoming, as more interest is starting to generate. I recommend purchasing this product soon in order to avoid disappointment if you like what you've seen throughout this review. The record comes wrapped in a cellophane with the Vinyl Who sticker placed on the front, displaying various details about the story and this product. So now turning to the product itself, Oink Creative once more returned, contributing a superbly stylish cover, evoking the atmosphere of the story, but also keeping it uniform and consistent with the other releases a part of this series. John Corlong has done a phenomenal job as illustrator, balancing simplicity and detail perfectly. As always, it's great to be able to see a Doctor Who story that has existed for quite a number of years receive a refreshing new and modern cover art, especially given how unique this series of artwork is. Fang Rock continues the theme of having the Doctor absent. Instead, we focus on the lighthouse of Fang Rock Island, the main location the narrative is centred around throughout the TV serial. At the bottom of the cover, it states that this is an original BBC TV soundtrack, and at the top we have the current era Doctor Who logo. As per usual, this has been given a stunning silver embossed finish, which really stands out on the foggy background. The BBC logo and title of the story are both finished in a white typeface. The rough sea waves are beautifully depicted with a lighter charcoal grey, highlighting the ripples within the sea waves. A white spotted fleck design sweeps up the lower half of the cover art and beating against the lighthouse and rocky terrain of the island. In the left-hand corner of the cover art, we have the remains of the boat crashed against the island shore. The mast and individual ropes ominously stand out on the darkness of the sea and sky behind. As for the lighthouse itself, this is a lovely elongated design. An intricate texture has been excellently applied, giving the impression of brickwork. I love the white colouring towards the left-hand side, a stark contrast to the darkness behind. At the bottom, we have the small orb of the Rooton glowing away, floating about like a ghostly apparition. I really like how the Rooton almost blends into the scenery, as you don't really notice it at first. The whole artwork is moody, with flecks of rain scattered across the whole picture. The beam from the lighthouse works effectively as the central focus, having the beams of white and yellow taking over the sky. A little bit of artistic license has also taken place here, with a brilliant green glow emanating from the centre, referencing the flow of the story. This also reflects within the raindrops being a nice green finish. It almost looks like a toxic variation of the Northern Lights. Overall, I think the cover art is really effective. I love the use of colour. I think that a dark murky colour palette is a bold yet effective choice on this cover art and works really well. The greens and yellow highlights really bring it to life. The back of the record continues the usual design seen on the vast majority of releases a part of this series, featuring a close-up of the TARDIS flying within the vortex. The colours reflect the front artwork, with the vortex howl TARDIS signage, plus the windows glowing a lime green. At the bottom we have some company details, as well as stating that this story features the one and only Tom Baker as the 4th Doctor. The inside of the main record sleeve is presented in the same manner to usual. At the top we have some story details along with the serial air date, and at the bottom corner we have a series of story credits from the TV production, sound mastering, and the visuals for this record release. In the centre we have the inclusion of the full cast for this episode, which this time round is considerably small. The rest of the sleeve features the usual shooting star pattern, which this time uses the different shades of green and grey, reflecting that of the colour palette on the cover art. It's a personal preference, but the inside of the record gatefold I would have loved to see some pictures from the actual TV serial, or even a story synopsis, although I understand why this hasn't been included in order to keep the style of the record overall minimal. The record protector sleeves both include the TARDIS flying within the vortex, which is consistent to the previous editions. On the opposite side there is the cast for each part, a brief story description, and the serial air date. As always, the record finish on the vinyl is the main selling point. This time, no vortex swirls or star constellations are included, but a simple green blob representing the Rutan creature. This does vary between each record, and I like how it fades towards the sides. The shimmers of lighter green make it look almost gel-like, and the transparent base adds to the overall shimmer. So to conclude, yet another really pleasing record to look at. Now, I have mentioned this in a number of reviews already, as well as on Twitter on a number of occasions. Basically, in the first lockdown of COVID-19, I set up a massive project of reviews, basically taking a look at each individual episode to feature Tom Baker as the Fourth Doctor, right from season 12 right up until season 18. And within the first lockdown, I watched every single Tom Baker story in chronological order, and I reviewed each individual episode. We are talking a massive project, the biggest that I've ever done, and yes, it took absolutely loads of hours to film. And shortly before I returned to uni, I lost everything. I lost the entire hard drive of footage, and I was absolutely gutted. However, as a result, I still have the Horror of Fang Rock in my memory, as well as the vast majority of the Tom Baker era, and season 15 is an unusual season. I can recall at that point within my marathon, I realised that there was quite a number of Doctor Who stories that I hadn't experienced, especially within this season, and to be honest, having watched the episodes, I wish I still hadn't experienced them. I think that season 15 as a whole is pretty much the definitive of a Doctor Who mixed bag, because season 15 has some great stories in it, the likes of the Horror of Fang Rock, the Image of the Fendal, Sunmakers, which is one of my personal favourite Fourth Doctor stories of all time, alongside some other questionable Doctor Who stories, the likes of Underworld and the Invasion of Time. And I heard a lot about Underworld, having not watched it before, and I honestly thought to myself, surely it can't be as bad as people say. It is. It very much is, and I don't think I ever want to watch that episode again, because quite frankly, it was mental. I needed to seek counselling after, to be honest. Season 15 does indeed start off with the Horror of Fang Rock, and as a result, this episode quite easily could fit into season 14. I could imagine this alongside the Talons of Weng-Chiang, the Robots of Death, the Face of Evil, because it has that style to it. It still has the underlying themes of the Philip Hinchcliffe era of the show, that darker elements of gothic horror that we in particular see within the Talons of Weng-Chiang, and this episode continues that eerie, haunted vibe, of course set on a lighthouse. It's a very claustrophobic environment. As a result, it is a very different classic Doctor Who serial, being to a very confined location. I can recall some parts of the story did drag, especially around the middle, in particular when they brought the cast in from the yacht that crashes. At that point it did get a little bit unusual, and I can recall the end being a little bit questionable as well, but overall it was a decent story. I can recall it having lots of great moments between Tom Baker and Louise Jameson, because at this point Leela is still that very tribal character. She's not really developed as much from the Face of Evil. She's had a few developments here and there. However, she's still new to time travel and technology. And as always, when it comes to collecting Doctor Who vinyl records, it is down to personal preference. I don't think anybody is going to buy this record having not watched the Horror of Fang Rock before, or having not read the Target novelisation, or having not had any experience at all with the story. But let's not lie to ourselves, we've already seen this episode a number of times, and we're simply simply buying it within this format because it looks pretty, it's got new cover art, and it's got a pretty shiny vinyl inside, and that is basically it. And I think that that is the thing with the Doctor Who vinyl records, in particular the Demon Music Group Vinyl Who series. It is very collectible, and it is very satisfying seeing these Doctor Who serials come out within this format, because the previous ones that I've covered have been the likes of The Massacre, as well as Marco Polo, not necessarily the biggest and grandest Doctor Who stories, the Horror of Fang Rock, the Underwater Menace. They're all episodes that, yes, exist within the Doctor Who archive, however, don't particularly get too much attention, so it's nice to be able to see this episode in a new format, although it will not be for everyone. So yes, overall for the Horror of Fang Rock on record, as produced by the Demon Music Group, another nice release to add to the collection, although admittedly it will not be for everybody, so if you are interested by what I've shown you throughout this review, I most certainly recommend checking it out before it goes out of print. So thank you very much for watching this review, I really hope you have enjoyed it. Do of course stay tuned on the Host Productions for brand new Doctor Who content each and every week, from product reviews, target novelisation reviews, Big Finish audio dramas, and much, much more. And on that note, I shall see you all next time. Bye for now.